Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. I'm Eric, and joining me as always is Ian.
Hi, I'm WeiryWriter on the forums.
Also joining us, back from the dead, is David.
Hey, I'm also Windrunner on the forums, and I am indeed alive.
What have you been doing? What have you been up to?
Moving apartments, so...
Oh. Yeah, and also forgetting your mic last month.
Yeah,
so
I forgot my mic when I was home for a while, so...
That was not the best idea, but...
I was so sure I had it.
Yeah. And also joining me is Ben.
What the storm is up, internet? Overlord Jebus here, coming at you with a high energy podcast. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.
God, kill me now. How much of that audio just clipped right there, Ben? How much of that?
God.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. We'll edit it in post.
I hope that was the intro you were looking for.
It'll just be
Eric.
Totally distorted during that part. It'll be great. It's really high energy. Great. It's not like we talked about the audio levels before this. Anyway, I am Chaos on the forums. Today, and for the next probably 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about Words of Brandon from the Oathbringer tour.
And the holiday signings.
And the 2 holiday signings. And we have like 36 pages of Words of Brandon for this podcast that we thought were interesting. So this will definitely be 2 episodes. 100%. It might be 3. We're not trying to milk this, but we're trying to inform you guys about the cool stuff Brandon said, and also get some good discussion, because there are some really top tier Words of Brandon here. And Ian, why don't you tell us a little bit about Arcanum, what it is, and where they can find it? Because I hear that's pretty cool.
Yeah. For back, the Wheel of Time fandom had a database where they... Okay.
It was incredible.
Well, like,
It's top tier.
I'm going to start this over.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to say.
Okay, maybe we should have scripted this part out.
Theoryland? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was the Theoryland interview database, which was created by the Wheel of Time fandom to store all of their Word of Jordans. I don't know if that was actually
I don't think they ever said that.
Okay.
I think we kind of did the whole WOB thing, Word of Brandon.
Which is terrible, but whatever.
Yeah, you don't like that, David. That's fine.
But when Brandon took over the Wheel of Time, like a lot of his stuff started getting put in that. So like that was the interview database for Brandon. However, it was time for our fandom to make one for our own, better suited for our purposes.
Yep.
Which took many, many years.
Took like 3 years. Our current one is our 3rd incarnation. The other incarnations were bad, so you didn't hear about those because there's really no point in you getting excited about something that's terrible.
Yeah. So
I hadn't realized it'd be going on for that long.
Yeah, like Ian and I have been.
Ian
wanted to do it for a very long time, and yeah.
It's pretty much why I was promoted to staff.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
But we made it.
But
we did make it.
Yes. So you can upload audio, you can snippet it, and then transcribe it all in one website.
And you can do that. You can do all of that.
You can't snippet audio. Arcanists have to do that, but you can create entries from snippets that are created. Yeah. And so you can go to a page, see all of the Word of Brandon's from an event, and if there's audio for it, you can press the play button and actually hear Brandon's words and inflections, and
which are often very hilarious.
Yes.
So
but
no more
and
arguing
also
over the way he said it may have implied this. You can hear how he said it.
Yeah, you can just hear it. You don't have to take the transcriber's word for what was said. You can just hear exactly what it is. And we we've grown a lot as a fandom. We have much higher standards on how things are transcribed and the accuracy that is required. And we have Ian to thank for all of these standards, really, because he's, basically did this. But the problem...
And you can find it at wob.coppermind.net.
wob.coppermind.net, yep. Yeah. I saw that, David. I saw that.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's good.
I completely missed whatever he did.
He was just scoffing. He doesn't like the term wob. But the search is really good on Arcanum, and really the problem in the Theoryland days was that all the transcribing occurred in Google Docs, and a lot of that was really easy to lose, and people didn't know where to go, and it all kind of happened on closed doors. And so with Arcanum, we have this centralized place for people to upload audio, to transcribe audio, and we also have it so Dragonsteel is checking accuracy of things. So it's all a centralized place for you and Dragonsteel. So it's pretty great. And all of our words of Brandon that we're going to talk about today are all already on Arcanum, although I don't think Dragonsteel hasn't reviewed these yet.
They have not yet.
You'll see the word pending in front of things on Arcanum, and that just means, Peter's going to check it eventually. So,
yeah.
So, with that, we have a reason for bringing on Ben, and yes, because you went to a signing, I went to a signing, and we have some amazing confirmations, and we're just going to start with those. And I believe Ian needs to take some credit because he did not like me trying to subtly take his credit, that was not my intent last week, about the Oathbringer letters in the epigraphs last time. So our first Shardcast that you saw on YouTube, we talked about the letters, and we were totally spot on. So that's why you listen to this podcast. And so, Ian, why don't you lead us right into this very first one?
So there was a page runner at the Houston signing asked, are they all from Shards? Brennan said yes.
Good.
Which is what we confirmed.
Totally right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is the first one, is that one we know? Is that one we've seen? They are all ones you have seen. They are all ones we have seen, or at least have seen or know of. Yeah. So they are all Shards we know.
And so what that means is, well, with the first letter, we had a very short list of options because it couldn't be cultivation, right? It couldn't be a lot of them, and it was either endowment or an unknown shard.
Yep.
Or Dominion's back from the dead. Keep waiting.
Probably, definitely not that. That was not. Yeah.
It was not an option we seriously considered.
I don't think you mentioned that on that podcast, in fact, David. So you're just ruining your own credibility here.
Oh yeah. Won't want me taken too seriously.
No, come here for top tier theorizing about Bide and Mishram and other things. Anyway, so Ian, you're totally right. It's got to be endowment, right? Yep. There's not really any other option.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, if we haven't actually seen much from endowment in terms of beyond just being the voice back there, that we can get like a little bit of a sense of personality and some intense aggression. It seemed like, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's not what you would.
Me was from her magic system, and the shard of basically just giving things to people for free. Kind of the essence of endowment. It's surprising that she's so hostile.
I'm really. Yeah, go ahead.
I wouldn't characterize her as hostile. She is in a position of power talking to like some Joe Schmo. It's just like, what are you doing? Okay,
Hoyd, what are you doing?
There's what are you doing? Like, let the adults handle things.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's it's got to take some guts to be like, oh, I'll deal with Odium, like, 4 shards down, and there's like no big deal. Did that all get picked up, everybody, right there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Yeah, so that one, 100% endowment. I can't wait to see a scene where, kind of like the scene where we see cultivation or Odium for the first time, like seeing endowment for realsies for the first time, because I'm sure all of this personality will come through when we get that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this again. Dragon.
If this is the first podcast you're listening to, guys, Ian wants endowment to be a dragon.
Is there a reason for that, or is it just like there should be a dragon shard?
Well, there should be a dragon. I would suspect
dragons are mentioned in Warbreaker.
I know, but like in like
Brandon
a really
said,
minor
there's
way.
a reason like dragons are part of the mythology on Nulthus, which would make sense.
I haven't seen that one. If that's actually been said,
I kind of forgot that.
I didn't see that one, so okay.
Like, I have legitimate reasons for this.
Okay, I thought it was just them saying Dragon's Nest at one point. I was like, that could be a translation thing.
If endowment was a dragon, it would make sense that dragons, at least from the Dragonsteel sample chapters that were posted, the only instance of description of a dragon that we have, you can read it on Brandon's site, they seem really impressive. So that would kind of add to endowments like, wait, what are you doing? I'll handle this. I'm a dragon. Now I have a shard. I'm one of the most powerful things ever. I'm not going to let you deal with this. I can deal with this.
I am woman, hear me roar.
Literally. Yeah, literally. So, I mean, if that was the case, then I'm in. But it's a meme at this point that you want a shard to be a dragon. So,
yes.
Then, Ben, why don't you read this next quote from London, which you ask.
This is kind of a combination of two separate questions. One that wasn't even planned to be a question, but became one.
Crazy, very important, top tier.
So the question I had was: is all investiture in the Cosmere associated with a shard? To which Brandon kind of ahed about it a little bit and basically said, yes, at the point of the shattering, all investiture in the Cosmere became associated with a shard. And we had a little back and forth about this, about whether they're aware of it, or what that means, for whether the shard of preservation embodies all preservation in the Cosmere. But this prompted Ulysses, who's from the shard, to ask, is the investiture...
narrate this exactly. Yeah, this one's good. This one's good.
So Ulysses says, investiture of First of the Sun is associated with a shard? Brandon said, yes, it is. That one is even closer associated with a shard, the actual investiture of the magic. Remember, when I say investiture, I mean matter, energy, and magic. Sometimes the word investiture just means the magic, such as AVR, and in that it is directly associated with one of the shards. Ulysses asks, which one? So Brandon says, Pagi is a shard of Aldenasium. And I wish we had a recording of in the room because it just went quiet.
Technically, we do have a recording of it.
We do have a recording.
We have the audio. There's just a moment of silence, and then I just have to go.
It's like stunned silence. Stunned silence.
So great.
Pagi is a shard of Aldenasium. What?
And so I say, sorry, can you say that again? And then he says it in the exact same way. He says, Pagi is a shard of Aldenasium. And
wait. Like, how are you pronouncing that?
Adonasium.
Adenalsium.
Adonasium. This is fine. Don't worry.
Sure. All right.
At least I'm not saying Pagi.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
And then we specified it by asking, is he on about the AVR or all of the islands, or is it just specifically Pagi? Is it a shard? And then he says, big asterisk, but yes. And considering how much you guys spoke about how that second letter, which was about it was an avatar on Obadiah, I think is
correct
phrase used.
Well,
and so
the letter is not from an avatar, even though I hate that term, on Obadiah. It's from Pagi.
Oh, yes.
It's referring to a new avatar on Obrodai.
So I'm glad we're all on the same page that Obrodai is not First of the Sun, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Do we
cool.
have confirmation of that for sure?
I know, I'm just saying, no, but like in our thoughts, not direct confirmation.
It
but
makes
if you
no
read
sense
it
any other way. Like,
if you read it, it has to be a different place. / why would Brandon confuse us with two different names like that?
Yeah. And so, with that second letter mentioning waters and tests and all that kind of how dangerous it is, that big asterisk must be that this is in some way Autonomy, who we know is kind of going about leaving bits and bobs of herself here and there.
Well, Brandon says, in fact, one of the letters references First of the Sun in this and points to Oathbringer.
For those of you not benefiting, from the video feed, there are currently glory spread all around me because I called this.
That's true. You did. You can listen to our Part 2 Epigraphs podcast. Ian is on it. Totally right. And our theory was that it was Autonomy with this whole avatars and different aspects and personas with Bobbin and Autonomy. And at the Salt Lake City signing, which I went to, I subtly asked Brandon, what shard would you take up? This is very clever. I was wheedling for new shards because that's what I do, basically. And he was thinking, probably one of the ones that hasn't been mentioned yet. But he was like listing off shards that were cool, and I just said, what, Autonomy's cool with creating new aspects, and Brandon's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He just says that in there. And so off the record, I need to tell a little story, because this signing at the Salt Lake City signing was super dead. It was done in a half hour. The line was done.
That's mental.
We arrived, we got lunch, and then by the time we finished lunch, because we just left the recorders there, Brandon was already done talking with everyone. And so we're just riffing, talking with Brandon, because no one's here. Bookstore employees are getting stuff signed. That's about all that's happening. It's very entertaining. And Brandon eventually realizes there is a magic shop like 2 blocks away. So,
as in Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering, yes. Yeah. That's important. Yeah, that is an important distinction there. So he writes on his his foam sign that has a cover of Oathbringer. He writes on the back of it, "Went to play Magic, be back at 5 to sign more things." So we just leave and we play Magic with Brandon. We're leaving the signing. Anyway, so we turn off the recording, and I just asked Brandon, did you mean to say that second letter, that was Autonomy? And he's like, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. I didn't expect this to be really mysterious. And I was like, yeah, we agreed on our podcast, and so he did say that it was okay for me to mention this. And there's a.
But, I mean, we've only got your word to go by on this. So is this like a word?
There's other people there, Ben. There were literally other people right there. Literally other people right there. But he also said this, that any shard could make aspects.
Oh.
Yes. Which is good to know.
That is interesting.
Yes. Now, I should note that he's using the word aspect because I used the word aspect. But if you carefully read the Oathbringer epigraph, it mentions the word avatar for this. So I think we should use the word avatar. And that's the one that's in the book.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, Ian, you why don't you like that word? Why don't you like that word?
I don't think it's accurate.
Why?
Because that's not what an avatar is.
It didn't become a person, like an incarnation of something. But
why not? Let's Google this. Avatar definition.
I just Googled it a second ago.
Well, I've always seen avatar. It means the representation of something.
A manifestation of a deity
or
a soul in bodily form on Earth.
Yeah.
A divine an incarnate divine teacher. That sounds fine.
Incarnate, it's like in flesh, though. Like there's not a person walking around. That is. That's what that's central to what avatar means.
Yeah, but like if
you need a person body, not a island body.
Well, okay. All right. All right. Let's do some analysis on this whole Patchy thing, because are we saying that the island itself
I'm not
is the avatar?
Every time I go back and listen to that audio of that signing and that question, he says, there is a shard, and then he's searching for a word, and then I kind of suggest represented, and he goes, represented on the island, and then he said, what does he? He then changes it to another word, or is okay. I can't find it. You can
might
cut
not have
that,
been transcribed. Yeah.
And every time I listen to it, and I hear myself suggesting the word represented when that clearly isn't what he wanted to say, every time I shake my head, I'm like, why did I say? I should have just let him finish his sentence, and because then we wouldn't have this argument about whether he meant the island or the pool on the island, because Padgy is the island, not the pool.
I will say that in the Arcanum Unbounded essay for Cell, it mentions that the very lands themselves are becoming invested and are developing sentience.
But that wasn't that like a result of them being in the cognitive realm? Like that was half of it.
Yes.
But still, their land is
avatars
becoming sentient. There is precedent for it. Whether or not that's actually what's happening here.
Yeah.
Autonomy.
I'm not willing to say that's what's happening. I'm saying it's a possibility.
In my mind,
it's not my favorite idea.
Yeah.
I think there's just, I don't want to say spren, because I don't think it's a spren. But
yeah, I just
the embodiment of the island, not necessarily like the island itself.
Mm-hmm. See, I just think that in their world, they're worshiping, like their religion is that these islands have a personality. And so like the god they're worshiping, which happens in their context to be an island, is part of a shard of Elysium. Not that splinter or avatar or aspect is actually the island itself. Just the being they're worshiping.
The physical manifestation is that island.
I think it's the island was invested by whatever. Like that's where the investiture is centered. Which is why the perpendicularity is there, so that's why.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to happen somewhere. I don't know.
And actually, I've kind of been thinking. I've always thought of the perpendicularity as part of the shard, but really,
that doesn't need to be the case.
Doesn't need to be the case. The perpendicularity could be a side effect of an avatar of autonomy being there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a concentrated investiture, and as we talked about on our cultivation podcast, cultivation's perpendicularity is in the Horneater Peaks, not near the valley where she's kind of centered, right? So they don't even need to be in the same location necessarily at all. You guys just talking about that kind of made me think there's no precedent for a shard creating these avatars, right? We don't know what the requirements for that is. And what just occurred to me is that maybe it needs some kind of physical anchor, maybe? I don't know. And maybe the island's that anchor? Maybe if it's this avatar, it's probably sapient, because, that's kind of how that letter...
So.
Yeah.
Right.
They wrote a letter, yeah.
Right. So, just like other shards, its manifestation wouldn't be in the physical, right? Because generally shards don't just show up in the physical, like, hey, how's it going?
Unless they're cultivation.
That was like centered in the valley, right? So weirdness is happening there. Shards manifesting is a interesting question. But anyway, I think we could say that whatever this avatar, because I don't think the word splinter is the right word. It's a new thing. It's a new thing.
It'd be interesting to find out what the difference between a splinter and an avatar will be.
I mean, you maybe could call it a splinter, but
from, let's see, which signing was this from? From the Leeds signing in England. There was, can a shard go to a planet, create an autonomous splinter, and then leave the system of the planet? Yeah, that's possible. In fact, that's happened. You've seen that happen.
Well,
I think that's kind of what's going on here. Because we know leaving a system where a shard is invested is hard for the shard and has consequences.
Yeah.
And like, so for a long time, we've thought, they just lose access to that investiture. What if the formation of an aspect or avatar?
Yes.
That is what happens.
That's the cost. If you want to leave, you have to leave that a part of yourself there, maybe.
That's
an interesting idea.
Investiture.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think it's just that the island's anchoring this investiture, the splinter, this avatar.
Yeah.
There. It's not the physical manifestation of this investiture.
No, it's not like the Mists or Storm.
No.
Yeah,
definitely not.
For me, what I feel is the closest kind of comparison we could make is one of my personal top theories for how the Unmade is that they are kind of splinters, kind of anchored to what could have possibly been a human or a singer at some point. Hence why, they're very much weird. That's very weird. And so that would kind of work with that. If the avatars from Autonomy are kind of comparable to an Unmade, that would kind of link up together, if that makes sense. Or am I just speaking gibberish?
Well, because what Ian said is different from what I was kind of initially going, and that's totally fine because we're kind of just spitballing because we have absolutely no idea how this works. But I was kind of going at it from the angle of, I'm Autonomy, I'm going to this place, I'm creating an avatar. And Ian's kind of coming at it as, I'm on this planet, I want to leave this planet, making an avatar is the cost for leaving.
Yeah. Well, I think it can be either way.
Sure.
Because, like, she's going around, like, intentionally creating avatars. Like, that's her goal. Yeah. So it's like, it's not really, like, the cost to her, because it's, like, the point of what she's doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, this whole Pachi thing is just so weird. Do we have any more to say on this? Because
I will just say that paradigm shifting is a word that is sometimes bandied about words of Brandon.
In what?
This was paradigm shifting.
Well, really, just that second letter was paradigm shifting because you can kind of see that they're shards, but the second one's completely weird, and it's like, what is this?
The all investiture is associated with a shard, and Pachi being an aspect of autonomy.
Oh,
that is paradigm shifting. That's going to have a significant effect on theorizing going forward.
Yeah, do we want to talk about how... So all investiture was Aiden Alcium, and when the shattering occurred, all that investiture was reassociated with a shard. Do we want to talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. I'm happy to talk about that. So, honestly, I went into that question expecting a no, and I had follow-up questions for a no, and I wasn't expecting a yes. And so I was just kind of like a bit lost when he said yes, because I was expecting it to be something like, just what was focused around Yolan was assigned to a shard, and now shards can go about and pick up, this kind of neutral investiture wherever they go.
It's all investiture.
It's all investitures now. And so what's interesting is the way it's phrased it and the way he was saying it. It does seem to be like it's not necessarily all investiture got split evenly. It's just every bit of the unilog, the whole Cosmere, everything that helps preserve things is now associated with the Shard of Preservation, and so it's everything that allows things to be ruined is now associated with ruin. And so what's interesting to think about is when you think of Roshar before Honor and Cultivation turned up, does that mean the various spren for those things were those associated with those other shards before Honor and Cultivation turned up and kind of twisted it
I'm
towards
glad
them?
you asked
Whether that works.
Because Ian specifically gave me a question to ask Brandon, and it was a super weird response. So I actually asked this for Ian in particular about this.
Yeah, I'm totally confused by his response.
Here's the question. So at the Forbidden Planet signing, you said that when Adonalcium was shattered, all investiture in the Cosmere was associated to one of the shards. So what happened with Adonalcium's spren on Roshar? Were those associated to Honor and Cultivation? What happened with them? Brandon says, so they were already associated to certain parts of Adonalcium, and they went with those associations. There's a lot of cultivation in all of the spren, particularly the natural spren.
That makes perfect sense in line with the London Wob, in my opinion. I think
it does too.
Essentially, yeah, it is essentially the spren of various things. The spren of, as I said, the natural spren is all associated with life growing things. I'm trying to think of any other natural spren.
Fire spren,
life spren,
wind spren,
oddly.
Yeah. And so it kind of makes sense that does it make sense that they're associated with cultivation? Because they are.
I guess they are.
I guess they are. So yeah,
it is a little weird because
it is
the London word of Brandon kind of got me thinking about imagining all investiture as a Lego block, and when the shattering occurred, each of those Lego blocks was then associated with like one of 16 different flavors. So just imagine it like a different color. Not that we're saying all the shards have the same color, but it's an analogy.
Yeah.
It's important to say that. But it is weird that like, all those spren on Roshar, that's already cultivation. So they just went with that. Like, it does seem kind of weird. But maybe if spren are weird in the Cosmere. They're kind of coalesced, and maybe they kind of could choose more.
Yeah, I've just had a thought associated with cultivation and Roshar. So we know that at least the planet Roshar was built from scratch. In fact, Brandon, in one of the replies on Reddit that I got from him, he even said specifically that Roshar was grown by Aldenasium. And so I'm just going to make up different
Adonalcium.
I'm just going to keep making up different pronunciations.
Let's just permute syllables. Let's be great.
And so it would make sense that if he kind of cultivated Roshar from nothing, if it was just the planet or whether it was the whole system, whether it was the whole solar system, I have a feeling it was the whole solar system because the whole solar system's weird. And
accurate.
And so if he and so if he grew the whole thing from nothing, it would make sense that
associated with cultivation.
Yeah, and so he cultivated it.
I'm kind of with that.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
because if Adonalcium destroyed a planet and like left some latent investiture there, then maybe that would be reflected in some ruinous investiture kind of thing. Because Adonalcium's all of those 16 flavors with that context. So whenever Adonalcium's doing a thing, then that's kind of what we get there.
Yeah.
So I guess in that respect, that does kind of make sense.
Yeah. And the the last thing I want to talk about in regards to that investiture is he was very specific when he talked about how the vessels are not infinite. So whilst the shard is infinite because it represents all aspects of preservation, ruin, honor in the entire Cosmere, they are limited by the vessels. And I feel like this is one of the first times we've heard anything about the kind of the vessels being the limiting factor for what a shard can do.
That's not super surprising to me, though.
It's not.
It's not at all surprising to me.
It's definitely interesting.
Relatively obvious to the casual observer.
Yeah, yes. I think that's very obvious because, like when Vin holds preservation or when Sazed holds harmony, you don't automatically just get to see all of that investiture through everything, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to do that. You're insanely expanded, and Brandon's always described shards as lowercase g gods.
Yeah.
And that just kind of goes with that, you know? So that
they are
So
not
I wonder if
or omniscient.
yeah. But they see a lot, and they are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Makes me wonder if a Shodel shard or a dragon shard would be more powerful than a human one.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thought.
I'm glad you talked about Shodel, Ben. Was that an intentional segue? Was that an intentional segue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Well, we're cutting this part out then. Because there was.
You guys had anything to talk about in regards to that?
Oh yeah, do we?
No, I think we're done.
That was good.
Segue.
No, we just got to go with that amazing segue that you provided for us. There was one person at the San Francisco signing, First Selector, who asked if Ulada is ambition, and the answer is yes. And Brandon said that was pretty obvious. Oh, also, yeah. And I asked Brandon at the Salt Lake signing if Ulada was a Shodel. And Shodels are one of the 3 races on Yolan, which you do get to see in the Dragonsteel sample chapters along with a dragon. And Brandon said yes, Ulada is a Shodel, and we are okay to post that. Brandon said it was really obvious, but I will say I have a bit of an advantage there. But all the Shodel naming schemes are these 2 words, so it's very obvious that Ulada is a Shodel, actually.
Do we have
but now we have a confirmation.
Examples? Do we have any other
not that are publicly available?
No, that's
okay.
I couldn't talk about this until Brandon gave me permission to talk about this here. But it was intuitively obvious to me that Ulada was a Shodel. But anyway, that naming scheme, it's a Shodel naming scheme. Yeah. So if you see two words that are like that's a Shodel thing.
Unless they're together as one word, because then that's a Kandra.
That's right, exactly.
Unless they're palm, yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
For some reason.
So Ulada is a Shodel. So we got so much shard info right off the bat.
Yes.
There. Would a Shodel shard be more powerful than a human shard? I mean, I'm not
technically. I would say no. Like in terms of raw power.
Sure, definitely not. But I think in the context of the vessel being a limiting factor.
Are they more capable with the shard's power?
Sure.
Perhaps. I think they seem more cognitive-y from what I've read from the sample chapters, so I don't know how that would play in, but they seem like they did have like a closer connection to the cognitive realm.
For those people who haven't read the sample chapters, does someone want to summarize quickly what a Shodel is? Because I am one of those people.
Well, it was not terribly clear.
So, okay, all right. Yeah. Let me sell you the Dragonsteel sample chapters. Imagine Kaladin being in Bridge 4, but it's just written really badly. Those are the sample chapters. And instead of fighting the Parshendi, they're fighting the Shodel. And instead of good writing, everything moves really fast. The same scenes occur, just written worse.
Bad. Okay.
Yeah. They have this cognitive magic. I forget what the description of them are. I think they've been described.
They have like white. They're like white, and they have like triangular heads or something. I don't quite remember at this point.
Yeah, it's really weird.
They're like related to the Fane life in some way. It was mentioned, which is
yes,
which I know is evil somehow. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily evil.
Different somehow.
Not good for people.
We don't really know what Fane life means in the Cosmere.
Yeah.
We just know that it's been mentioned, and it's been mentioned in the Lyre of Parnell.
Yes.
I don't even think it's mentioned in Dragonsteel, honestly. I could do
it is mentioned in Dragonsteel because it was in the sample chapters that he posted on his website.
Okay, great. Talking about Dragonsteel is difficult for me.
I'm sure.
Right. Oh, and then there's like this weird part at the end where the main character's training with who would actually be Dalinar in on Rosharan Shattered Plains, but like he was rescued by a general, and that general's war camp was all very pretty,
and he treats the soldiers well.
yeah, right. And apparently that general just has super awesome soldiers who, when they punch things, they break the thing's spiritual aspects. That's apparently a thing you can do.
Okay.
Or at one point could do. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Brent was developing the Cosmere.
Yeah. So it's a fast read. You don't need to read too closely on those.
Okay.
I'm just saying, guys, if you are an aspiring writer, read the Dragonsteel sample chapters. You'll feel way better about your own writing. So if you read Brandon's old stuff, you'll just feel better about your own writing. And that's fine, because, you write a lot and you'll get better. But, Showdoll are more cognitive-y, but what that means in context of a shard, absolutely no idea. By the way, Dragonsteel sucks. The book. It's
not the material?
Book.
Okay.
Not the company. It was what I was going for when I said that. I was like, I probably shouldn't say Dragonsteel sucks, but no, the Dragonsteel Prime
tomorrow.
That Brandon wrote, you're not missing anything that he didn't publish, because if he published it, we would say that it is bad. So just throwing that out there. It's quite bad. But you get a lot of it, and a lot of the cool stuff is already in Words of Brandon already, so you're not missing out on too much.
Do you want to move on to the Oathbringer release?
Let's do it. So we wanted to start with that stuff because that's kind of the biggest bombshells. And now we have 30 more pages of Words of Brandon to go through. And we're going to do some discussion. Some of these are to inform, again, and not really to discuss like, oh, hey, that's a cool thing to know. Because I know a lot of you guys are not super in with all of these new quotes. So, and that's totally fine. So we're going to help you walk through all the highlights. Yes. And David, why don't you read us this first one?
All right, cool. Ace 0003 requested that Brandon write something interesting about the 17th Shard, or like a character from the 17th Shard in their book. And Brandon wrote down that Ayatil, the masked woman who's appeared in Words of Radiance, and I think a little bit of Oathbringer, with the Ghostbloods, was once a member of the 17th Shard. She was referenced. She was in one of the interludes briefly, or like she was referenced. I don't think she was on screen much at all, but yeah, so,
certainly not.
Definitely an interesting character who is known to be a world hopper, so it makes sense.
We did know that she was a world hopper, yes. Because she is with the Southern Scadrians.
Mm-hmm. She is of Southern Scadrian descent, but she was born on Silverlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Yes. I'm glad we got that all sorted out. Yes.
Yeah.
She's also what's his name?
Raze.
What's her Raze? Yeah. She's also Raze's master, Babsk. She's not like subservient to him. And some people sometimes get that mixed up. They think Eotil is one of his servants, but no, she's actually the one.
I'm glad Feather's not here, because you would have forgotten Raze, and she would be very upset with you.
I was about to say, what's the name of the one that Feather has the crush on? But that would describe Cosmere, so...
She does have a crush on Raze, though.
Yes, absolutely. And Race.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I find about this is that the 17th Shard have a non-interference policy. They do not interfere at all. Like, they do not want to cause shards to come into conflict, so they do not interact.
Right.
The Ghostbloods, they interact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's probably Eotil was once in the 17th Shard.
Yeah, exactly. I think she's like, I don't like this. I'm going to start my own
organization.
Yeah. That makes me more curious about if we'll see the Ghostbloods pop in other worlds, because Brandon has referenced that there are mercenary companies and other groups that we would find terrifying, and I've been wondering if the Ghostbloods actually are actually a larger part of the Cosmere than we understand.
I think once we get the Silverlight novella, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Man.
So they could be.
I want to take bets right now. Who reckons we'll see a 3 triangle symbol in the Lost Metal somewhere?
A 3 triangle symbol.
Like the Ghostblood symbol.
The Ghostbloods.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ghostbloods. Sorry, 3 diamond. Sorry.
Oh.
I knew what you meant.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think there's enough weird crap going on in the Lost Metal with Southern Scadrians being an entirely new group of people, and whatever the crap's going on with Trell and this mists
and Trellium.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot something, guys. Spoilers.
Oh yes,
spoilers for everything.
If you haven't figured that out by now.
Hi, guys.
Oops.
I think I meant to say this earlier, but
We just put it on the top.
By the way, guys, the Oathbringer release has an absurd amount of quotes in them, like 250 quotes. It is insane.
Yeah.
This next one, the questioner says, so Hoyd says he couldn't use the pits anymore, but couldn't he have used the trust with a lot of atium altogether? Would that not formed a perpendicularity? Brandon says, no, there's a reason for that.
This seems like perfectly like reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Perpendicularities are a natural formation in the Cosmere. It has to do with spiritual humidity of investiture, which is weird.
Sure, Brandon. Yeah, that's totally what it is.
Pseudoscience.
Yeah.
But
sure.
atium is concentrated investiture. Like it's
the preservation
was like it's weird.
It is.
Yeah.
That's true.
But for me, it's almost comparative to saying if enough Knights Radiance or enough Mistborn stand in a room really close together, will that form a perpendicularity? It's like,
no, you just need one Knights
Radiant.
Radiant.
Not really.
Something else called.
Hey,
I've just seen that comment.
But no, I see your point, and I agree with your point.
Mm.
Yeah, it's investiture in a form, and it's just trapped in that form. It's it's not free flowing. It's not going to be doing weird things. It's got rules once it's in that form.
Yeah. Ian, why don't you do this next one?
Dalinar's visions are the memories of honor, correct? Yes, they are things specifically created by honor. Does that mean the recreants happened before honor's death, since Dalinar sees it? Yes, but honor's death, like preservation's death, is a protracted event.
Now, this is intrinsically obvious if you've read Oathbringer, which the Oathbringer release, many of these people didn't read Oathbringer yet.
Which makes sense, because it was kind of a long book, if anyone read it.
I hear it's a little long. That's the tagline for Oathbringer, a little long. But I just found it interesting that Honor's death, like Preservation's death, was a protracted event.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting.
Yeah, there's an old word of Brandon, like several years ago by now, that any death of a shard is weird and doesn't work the same as a normal mortal dying. Like that's
sure.
They go to the beyond. Like that much investiture, like you can't just stab them and they die.
Right.
So
I find it interesting just in the context of Chris talking about Kelsier
that's what I was thinking
history. Because she said that this preservation death, that one, was unlike other shard deaths before. And maybe she just didn't know the details of Honor's death, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Because the other ones, how does she describe it? She describes
like a beheading, right? Was how she described the other ones, like a shattering of the
other
power.
ones.
Yeah, the other ones. I think she said that preservation was a strangulation or something like that.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, but
what's the timeline? Sorry, what's the timeline for when Honor died? It was thousands of years before current events of Roshar, wasn't it?
It was post recurrence.
It was
2,500.
No more than 2,000 years ago.
And Chris said that about 300-ish years before the events of...
Yes, that's just what I'm thinking, yeah.
Of, the present-day Roshar that we're seeing in Stormlight.
Yeah.
One of the few timeline details we actually have.
It could just be that the way Odium That's kind of interesting, though. That maybe the way Odium killed the other shards that weren't Honor was a very different thing.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah, I'm feeling Roshar is an exception because Odium, he had his thing. He went around, he killed Ambition. He killed Devotion and Dominion. I feel like Ambition was kind of a mess. I don't know why that was. Maybe he got worse at it somehow. But anyway, like being on Roshar, being trapped by Honor and Cultivation doesn't surprise me that it turned out differently than that Chris might not have considered that could be an exception.
He was trapped there by whatever Honor did in particular.
He was sealed into the planets.
And Brennan does specifically reference... Brennan does specifically reference preservation and not any of the other shards that we know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had it in my head that Dominion and Devotion was basically a simultaneous event, considering how they were both shattered in the same way. So for him to double kill at the same time and then go to another planet with 2 shards and then be trapped in this thousands of years long prolonged battle, it's definitely very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, that first Way of Kings epigraph totally says that, Odium was on Cell a very short time, so clearly it was a very short, dramatic beheading, I guess.
Not a centuries-long war.
No. Which is really interesting. Why does Odium need to go through, hey, let's, cause these guys on Ashen to destroy this planet and then go here?
I don't think he prompted the thing on Ashen. I'm pretty sure they did that themselves.
I think Odium might have had a hand in...
Because he didn't come to Roshar until after the Ashenites went to Roshar.
But would that...
came later.
In my mind, that feels like Odium, showing up, getting his people together.
In the system, but not on Roshar, the planet.
Moving them... he created that conflict pretty intentionally in my mind.
He could have been on Braze, but not on the planet Roshar, which Honor and Cultivation were on.
Right? I don't know. I'm skeptical of him causing the destruction of Ashen.
I don't think he caused it. I think he might have helped it a lot. Whatever happened.
I'm skeptical of him being involved.
Okay.
At all? Oh, man. Yeah, I definitely think he's involved. 100%.
I would not be shocked at all if not only is he involved, but he was the one that caused Ashen to be destroyed in an attempt to
I think that's the investiture that they got from Ashen. I don't know. I don't know.
In my head, he probably intentionally did that to bring humans to Roshar in some sort of long-term plan. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It could purely be that Honor and Cultivation, knowing that Devotion and Dominion were killed pretty fast, immediately make preparations against Odium, knowing of this.
Yeah, that's possible.
So Odium's like,
well, crap. I have a hard time seeing them yes, we will accept all of these humans tainted by Odium, our ancient enemy.
That makes no sense. He was their god.
They were the ancient enemy.
He was their god. They accepted those people regardless.
I mean, to be fair, how would
he wasn't their god until after they showed up?
I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah,
they were the bringers of the void, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah, from the Elia Stellae and from Honor from Stormfather and from Steel, multiple times we're given the impression that Odium came to Roshar with the humans.
Yeah.
1 second. There's Brandon on this.
In the book Oathbringer.
Yes. All right.
This is from the Glasgow signing. From Hoyt and Alzium. What was the order of the shards coming to Roshar and changing allegiances? Did humans come with Odium? So you're talking about on Roshar specifically. So Odium had visited Roshar. The humans gave him more of an ear. The Dawn Singers would have considered him the god of the people who had come, but I mean, it wasn't like they necessarily brought him. He was capable of getting around before that. I mean, he did kind of come along with them. He was instrumental in what happened there. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. He was instrumental in what happened in Ashen. Oh, hey, yeah. Okay, all right. Okay. I love how you were like, I know what's going on. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Where we're learning about what as well.
There's no way, storytelling-wise, that this horrible event in the same system is not related to what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, circling back a little bit for like why things are different this time as well, and like how he managed to kill Devotion Dominion so rapidly, is it did reference that Odium is now wounded. So I'm wondering, like he's been hurt before. So I'm wondering if he's being a little more cautious and a little more careful, which is one of the reasons that he was able to, he's doing things a little more subtly. He's not showing it and chopping off heads. He's working through agents because he's afraid of being hurt.
He is called the Broken One.
Well, but it directly says he's been wounded, though, as well. Like, Stormfather tells that to Dalinar.
So,
yeah. So, I bet that plays into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Ben.
So, the questioner says, can soul-forged bones be awakened? Brenner says, can soul-forged bones be awakened? So, soul-cast bones be awakened. Once the soul casting is done, it is no longer invested and it will act as a normal item. A forged item will act as an invested and therefore will resist any manipulation. There's differences between those magics.
I just thought that was an interesting distinction.
Yes. Soul forged is a constant requirement of investiture.
That does make sense because you have to like replace the seal.
Wait, what is soul? What is soul forging?
Forgery.
That's
forgery. It's forgery.
Okay, that's forgery.
It's just phrased weird.
Okay,
it's just phrased weird.
I thought they were trying to say like a soul casted forged thing, like putting them together. I wasn't sure.
No.
When you've soul stomped something with forgery.
Yeah, I mean, there is
soul
the
forgery
soul
is a thing that doesn't apply to the things they're talking about.
Right. What is soul forgery? But like, that's not a term though. Like soul forging.
Soul forgery is. It's
like,
what
I'm
pretty sure it's in.
Soul. Yeah, it's what Shy does. Yeah, that's what Shy's souls do.
I don't think it's not one long word though. Like she forges souls, but she's not a soul forger.
Soul forgery is a single word.
Really?
I'm 95% sure. I'm checking now.
Fired.
It's not popping up, but I don't know. I'll trust you.
Okay.
I love how we got through basically 3 quotes. And we're already fighting on Ultra.
Word,
but okay,
soul forgery we're fighting as a term is a thing.
Well, okay. Here's the thing with Arcanum, guys. People are fallible.
I know. I was just confused what they were asking.
Yeah, they just means forgery.
I'm not.
We're being accurate to the things that were said, but sometimes people say things
that don't make sense.
Right.
No, I know. I was just trying to parse what they meant, not what they were saying.
There's another quote. It's kind of long, but basically the gist is that this questioner was asking if someone was burning metal, could preservation just refuse that? And the answer is no. Preservation can manipulate it a bit, but the magics are laws of nature and they can't just turn that off.
Yeah.
Really.
I wonder if they could revoke the investiture that rewrite the soul web so you are no longer an Allomancer and stop it that way. But
I imagine the answer is absolutely yes, and we've seen that happen. Well, the other way.
Unless the Shards intent mandate goes against manipulating someone's spiritual DNA.
Yeah, would preservation do that? The answer is no. Preservation would not make that change. Preservation, it could Vin,
it seems like
if
something,
she knew how to do it. Could she do that? Probably. Yeah. I mean, Sazed,
they have the ability to do that. Whether they have the inclination to do it is another.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They said in this that the shard could interfere, but not shut it off. So that's kind of interesting.
It's they can't turn off gravity.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Could Honor turn off gravitation?
I know people have opinions on this next quote.
Okay. What metal is Nightblood's sheath made out of? Nightblood's sheath is aluminum. Or aluminium, as our people across the pond call it.
If you're not aware, aluminum is not steel and is not particularly
sturdy.
Strong?
You should have picked titanium or something, and just we had never had this problem ever. But oh well.
So
it could just be aluminum lined.
Yeah.
So that like the aluminum is the important part. So that's like what the sheath is made out of. But there's other stuff in there that.
But there was
sheath shaped.
There were fused like blocking. Weren't they using that sheath to block stuff? You know what I mean? Like, yes. So I feel like that if it had just been lined with it, like maybe that would work. I don't know. I don't know if they've like. I know Peter at one point mentioned that they wanted it so that the material strength was still involved. Like if you had used a shard blade against like a sheet of aluminum foil, it would still tear through it because it's not thick. But in my head, that at this point, you kind of have to accept that maybe that not all that force is being transferred.
Yeah.
Aluminum, it's weird.
It's Nightblood. Period is weird. I think it's natural that Nightblood sheath is weird.
Yeah, I will hope that in the future it's an aluminium alloy, not just pure aluminium, because then that would be
maybe an alloy is good enough. You know?
Yeah, that's the excuse they use for guns in Mistborn, isn't it? So is that it's an alloy?
Oh yeah, okay, all right, that's fair. Did you know that sapphires are a compound of aluminum?
Yeah,
gemstones.
I did.
Yeah,
I would call them.
You're a geology major.
Yeah, there is aluminum in sapphires that colors them. That makes them.
No, it's not. No, what?
I don't think aluminum is the impurity. I'm pretty sure it's an aluminosilicate. But
yeah, it's
watch me like make a fool of myself with my degree.
No. I've done research for this years ago for reasons you know why, David.
Okay.
With sapphires.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, right. No one else knows.
I thought if you compounded aluminium, you just wiped out your internal allomantic reserves. I didn't realize you got sapphires out of that.
No, that has nothing.
It's a little known fact.
No, has nothing to do with that.
Oh, the chemical compound of corundum has aluminum. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that, or maybe I did, and I just long leave.
Yeah.
But I don't think at that point it's not really aluminum anymore, so I don't think that.
Well, you're right, but you know what? If aluminum's so weird, does aluminum compounds count? We have absolutely no freaking idea.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say on that.
Who knows?
David, read this next one.
Oh, gotcha. How the crap did Zahale end up on Roshar? Brandon, partially walked there, partially took a vehicle.
Which is such a trolly answer.
Yeah.
You guys don't realize, once you start reading Arcanum, which is great, Brandon is an ultra troll. Like that whole Padgety quote, Brandon deliberately wanted to troll you. Like, oh yeah, Padgety's a shard. Asterisk.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Brandon.
Yeah. So that thanks for dropping that on us unexpectedly.
Yeah. Yeah, the vehicle thing is pretty cool, although I kind of think it could be just as simple as he got in one of those Mandra boats. Could just be in a boat,
like it's not really that impressive, but it was an amusing answer.
It's hilarious, like, if you know the circumstances of, like, how this actually happens. So, yeah.
Partially walked, partially took a vehicle. You just got to imagine a car, you know?
Yeah.
Don't. I'm kidding.
There could be Shadesmar cars, you don't know.
Shades cars?
Shades cars.
No? Okay, all right.
Eric, I've got to ask why you've included this next one in the doc. Can I read this one?
There's actually a good reason, because I wanted to talk about this one.
This one's super important. This one's very important to talk about.
No, but you can read it for sure. I just wanted to discuss it.
Yes. The difficulty is that some things are inaudible, and this one has some important inaudible parts that we cannot discern. But I think we can figure out what that means. So, all right, read it.
Okay, so the questioner asked, is there something preventing the listeners or the Parshendi from inaudible? Brandon says, historically, yes. And so the questioner then says, oh, so it's not something that inaudible. And then Brandon replied, something was preventing them. You phrased that really well.
Okay. So I'm gonna give my interpretation on this, because
I have an interpretation too. I think we all
but I'm pretty sure what he's saying in that first inaudible, anything preventing the listeners or Parshendi from inaudible, is he's probably referencing bonding a Spren to become a Radiant, as we saw with Venli, is my belief. And so Brandon's saying, historically, yes, something was preventing them from becoming a Radiant. And in my head, I'm starting to wonder if maybe Honor was not a big fan of the listeners becoming Radiants for whatever reason. And since his death, that restriction has now been removed.
Yeah, I agree to most of that.
Listen to this again.
I believe that it wasn't that he was not a fan of them. It was just that he saw that they were susceptible to Odium, in that pretty much all of the singers joined Odium. And so he did not want to risk his children to an entity that could easily go to Odium.
Mm-hmm. Another possibility, yeah.
Yeah, but
it's not like he was racist against singers. It's just, he was.
Well, no, I don't think that's the case, because the listener song of listing and all those listener songs make it sound like the Spren were forbidden, that they could never provide what humans gave them with the bond.
But that's clearly not the case, you know? Like,
no, it isn't the case. And there's also a word of Brandon that says that singers can actually give what humans give.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which
I
guess
is next,
is obvious with Venli, but you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see that as contradicting what I just said.
Well, the way I see it is that the Spren in this first desolation, they didn't even bond the singers then, when there wouldn't have been any issue, right?
Well, because
you see what I'm saying?
Didn't start bonding people until after Honor gave the Heralds.
Sure.
They started bonding that in direct imitation of that.
Sure.
So before that point, they didn't even know it was possible.
I guess.
And after that point,
fine.
singers had corrupted the singers.
Okay.
Odium had
That's
corrupted.
fine. That's fine. I'm with you there. Oh, this is literally the next quote.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing. So now we know.
That says, hey, can Parshendi provide what the humans can provide in terms of a mutualistic relationship with the Spren? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, so this next one, the questioner is wondering how world hoppers can get around and actually speak to people without having to learn all of the languages.
Which, I mean, they hadn't read Oathbringer yet, so that's fine.
And basically, Brennan says that he intentionally made it so that it's incredibly easy to start using connection in order to speak other languages, like, which we see that in Fans of Mourning with the connection medallions, the unsealed metamines that allow Alec to speak to all the other people. So
yeah.
And
there are some like glitches with that, as we see with Hoyd. He's the only one in the Stormlight archive to use the word coin. If you notice that.
Yeah.
Because he thinks of money as coins, but that's not a thing on Roshar.
Oh, this next one is shooting down a super common theory.
That I liked.
Down.
Oh, well.
All right, well, you get to read it then.
Well.
You get to read it, David.
All right. Similar to how Lightweavers have kind of really good memories, do the Skybreakers have any special abilities for telling guilty and innocent people apart? Brandon, no. Good question. So that's not their resonance.
I know. I'm like really upset
theory.
by that.
Yeah. I can't even remember how that came about. Like, it's such a common theory, but
well, it's a common theory because it's mentioned in the Words of Radiance epigraph.
So they had like
what it is then.
An uncanny ability. Yeah, but so nothing there.
What I'm hoping is that Brandon was just super tired and didn't really listen to the question. That's my hope here.
So the next one links back to that previous one of, was the trust in Hero of Ages a perpendicularity? Which Brandon says, so no, asterisk. Which is strange since he said in the last one we talked about, to do with the trust. Basically pretty much said straight up no. So
yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I think the asterisk is like, there's a reason for that.
Again, yeah.
Sure.
It might be.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest reading of that. This next one. Questioner says, is there any undiscovered planets in the Cosmere? Brandon? Yes.
Checks out.
Yep. If you guys don't know, the Cosmere is not a galaxy as large as the Milky Way. It's a dwarf galaxy, so it's smaller.
It's a compact dwarf galaxy.
Yeah, so
and then
we're not going to have quadrillions of people in science fiction.
What a shame.
So even the events of what's kind of important to Cosmere, I think Peter said only happens in the space of a star cluster within a small dwarf galaxy.
Yeah, I remember something along those lines as well.
Space is really big.
Yeah.
I don't mean to get on a long tangent, but this is just making me think, I guess shards don't get to move through interstellar space very fast.
Or they just don't feel like it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But I guess the thought there is, if there's not life in these distant planets, then Shadesmar is really small, and it's hard to get there. And do you think shards are using Shadesmar to travel interstellar?
Brandon said that Harmony could will himself if he wanted to any planet in the Cosmere like a long time ago. So
because
that's true.
Shards exist primarily in the spiritual realm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where all of this conversation doesn't apply. So it's
sure,
weird.
Okay. Yeah, because the reason why I brought it up is because moving a shard to the cognitive is kind of bad, right?
Yeah.
As we saw with the door.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what I was going there.
Specifically, their investiture into the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Hey, Windrunner. I'll read this one.
Okay, I'll read the one that I kind of still don't agree with or get, but yeah. What's with Kaladin being special with his oaths that he explodes with power every time he says it? That is a function of Windrunners being very close to bondsmiths, which has certain effects. Would other Windrunners do that as well? Brandon, yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which is fine and interesting, although I do kind of wonder, Dalinar did not explode with power every time he's sworn an oath, so I'm curious why being close in proximity to the bondsmiths would make them explode with power, but the bondsmiths themselves would not explode even more with power. Is my thought. But
yeah,
what's also interesting is we know the exploding with power thing is a unique thing to Windrunners, but if being close to a bondsmith is what causes that, then why don't the Stonewards get that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't seen any Stonewards swearing any oaths, so.
No, but it might not be relevant anymore, but we've had WOBs that the explosion of power thing is a unique thing to the Windrunners. That's something that Windrunners get.
Yeah. Oh.
It's just because they're that cool, is really what it is, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was also kind of curious.
Main character.
Because, it's the main character, that's it.
He's the main character. He explodes.
So many people just got really angry with me.
I mean,
but I want to see more of like the real Truth Watchers. Sorry, Renarin, because I do feel like they might end up being the
like not my Truth Watchers. Cut that.
No, we're keeping this, and Alex is going to eviscerate you later.
Oh man,
yeah.
She probably doesn't listen to these. She doesn't listen to these.
Yeah, but at least internally, I've been considering the Truth Watchers to be like the cultivation. Not even that's wrong, but like kind of like not equally important to the bondsmith, but very significant in the same way. Yeah, and so I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious, like if they would have a similar effect to any of the orders around them. Although they don't have like the really big spren they're bonding to, so maybe not.
You didn't listen to the last episode where I kind of alluded to this, but if you read the descriptions for the Night Watcher and the Mist Spren, who I believe are the Truth Watcher's friend, they are described very similarly. So my theory,
intriguing,
like with like the smooth like porcelain faces and like misty bodies, that I'm thinking the Night Watcher is the progenitor of the Mist Spren.
Oh, that'd be
like
super
how
cool.
Honor and the Stormfather created the Honor Spren. The
That'd
Night
be
Watcher
really cool.
created the Mist Spren.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Taldane, are you ever going to write more novels down there? I would say 50-50 chance.
Good news, guys. Just confirmed we're getting White Sand prose written out in a better version. Everyone cheer and applaud. It's happening.
I This is a complicated subject that
My
Wendy
concern,
and I disagree.
We'll have to do our essay series. Is what we're going to have to do. That's what we actually need to do.
I'll just say I'm concerned because the White Sand Prose you can just get through Brandon's newsletter. You can get it really easy.
It's pretty. It's a decent read.
17shard.com.
It's not Dragonsteel, even though Eric doesn't like it. White Sand is actually pretty fun to read. So if you haven't, check it out. I really enjoyed it. Mish really enjoyed it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Its endings. Anyway, we'll wait until the graphic novels
don't
are out.
spoil
We'll
that
do an
part.
episode on that. Yeah, right. But that was one book in a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just gonna stop White Sand after the 3 graphic novels?
That's
and
actually
not
a
get
question.
The other 2 books in the series?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. And I'm worried that, if we have a graphic novel for the next books, that it's just going to go into Nonsenseville that Brandon doesn't want. That's my concern.
That is also my concern, and that's an argument I believe is very valid.
I mean, the next books of White Sand were going to be way more interesting than White Sand turned out.
Oh yeah,
but,
I feel like
whatever.
I feel like Darkside is going to be pretty interesting once it's
way more interesting.
Yeah.
Way more.
I think Darkside could actually work pretty well in graphic novel, better than Dayside.
Dayside also had the opportunity to work well, but then they put them on top of magic whirlwinds of sand, and we're like, this isn't even a power. They flew around.
Maybe we should do an episode on White Sand Volume 1 before we get to Volume 2, so we can eviscerate and or praise,
Then I'd have to read White Sand Volume 1 again.
Oh, shucks.
Wow.
It takes like an hour.
Wow. Snap. But I just want to say, though we are staff on the Brandon Sanderson fan site, the official Brandon Sanderson fan site.
TM.
If we don't like something, that probably means we really don't like something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to be like brainless yes men who are just like everything Brandon writes is good.
No.
I tend to really enjoy what he does write, so.
Yeah, right, exactly. I tend to really enjoy it.
Yeah, he has a great track record with me, but there are some things that just don't work, like Snapshot.
Oh.
Calamity.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you didn't like that one. Ben, do this one.
Yeah. Can you describe what Shadesmar looks like on either Nalthis or Cell? And Brandon replies, yeah. On Cell, it looks like a big old storm that will destroy you. More than a storm. It's like a big pressurized... It's like plasma almost. It's really dangerous. Really dangerous. That's because the door is hanging out there. And I'm glad we got confirmation of that. It is just a big old storm. It was like you step into it and it's like stepping into the high storm. It's just...
Well, I'm imagining something worse than the high storm.
Yeah.
It's like
it's
stepping
plasma.
Into the sun.
It's you're walking into a Shadesmar-y sunstorm thing.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Which puts we put all of our Elantrians into the perpendicularity.
Hey, Reno made it, as we found out. So maybe a few of them did.
Right, I know.
To be fair, if you want peace, you will be quickly wrecked by it.
Yeah. There's a lot of pain after that.
Wouldn't you just get ripped apart? How much pain would you actually feel?
I was just saying, like, quick, you're done. You're out. That's all those Elantrians wanted.
Better than the pain of being, an Elantrian,
Oh, what happens if you die in the cognitive realm? I bet that's weird.
You die in real life. You die in the game.
If you die in the cognitive realm, you die in real life. Yep.
Although one other thing that I noticed too is Brennan is not wanting to describe Shadesmar on Nalthis. This is not the first time I've seen him dodge what Nalthis looks like when someone asks him. So I'm curious if he doesn't want to tell us, or if he hasn't worked it out too much yet, since we haven't had to see it yet.
Maybe he just doesn't want to answer Nalthis questions because he knows we're not going to get the Warbreaker sequel ever. Not ever.
He's quietly canceled it and just can't break it to us yet. We're just all
10 years from now, maybe we'll get it. So
we'll get 20-year Warbreaker anniversary. We'll get Nightblood.
I would be heartbroken if he cancels Nightblood forever. That would be.
I don't think
No, we have to get it.
Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It is the lowest on the totem pole right now, though. I think of published things, like behind Elantris even.
No, because like Elantris sequels are apparently important.
Yeah, they have to happen before Era 3 Mistborn.
Which, for some reason,
dun 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 dun.
All right, I'm sorry for including this one, but it's right. Questioner. So would Allomancy work if the metals were a suppository? Brandon, that is theoretically possible, but gross. There's nothing special about the stomach. It's kind of getting into your spirit and things.
Which makes sense with like past words of Brandon, where you could burn piercings.
Right.
Yeah. We've had piercings, hemorrhagic spikes, IUDs, and now we've got suppositories. So if it's in your body, you can burn it.
Hold up.
What's up,
Ben?
What's up?
Why are you mentioning IUDs in this?
I'm pretty sure there is a word of Brandon about this.
If you not read this, the word of Brandon that says IUDs can be burnt.
There you go.
Wait,
that is a thing.
Yeah, that happened too.
I don't remember this at all.
Brandon is such a good sport. Is what we're learning.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, if it's in your body,
guys? I just searched Arcanum IUD. Exactly what I want. It's
right
really great. It's right there. Yeah. Yeah. You do need to worry about that. There you go. I wasn't familiar with that quote, and it was just very odd for you to mention it.
I can imagine without the context. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I was a little lost there.
Can you tell me why Jasnah wanted to potentially assassinate her sister-in-law, the Queen? She felt the Queen was seeking to usurp power for one thing, and was reckless for another. And so Jasnah was worried about the safety of the throne. Jasnah is an excellent judge of character.
Good thing
Jasnah judge. I would say that maybe Jasnah should have assassinated her. That might have saved lives, maybe.
Yep.
I wonder.
100%.
We don't need to go down.
But then we wouldn't have little Gavilinor to hang out with. So.
So the next one on this list is, can a Surgebinder use breath like they can Stormlight? Brandon says this is possible and not really that hard to make work, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's super weird.
Yeah.
Well, really? I think it makes sense.
Well, because I thought we've specifically had a word of Brandon that Zahel has had trouble getting Stormlight to be used for Awakening, so essentially as breath. So it's interesting that the other way around is apparently not that hard.
Yeah.
Well, Awakening is end neutral. Surge Binding is end positive. Like part of the thing of Surge Binding is that it draws in outside Investiture to power stuff.
Yeah, and like in my mind, I'm thinking, Brenda's talked a lot about how Stormlight isn't like as sticky, quote unquote, as breaths are. So that's why I think it'd be hard to awaken with Stormlight. But if you're given, in my head, if someone gives you 500 breaths and you've got 100 breaths and you're a Windrunner and you just try to lash something, it'll probably just start using those breaths if you don't have access to Stormlight. I think it'd be really that easy in my opinion, but because you're already just charged up with a different sort of energy.
Yeah.
Also,
that's plausible.
I just wanted to put it out there that Brandon saying not really that hard to make work could also be a relative thing compared with many things. But I agree with you, David, that's probably just how it goes.
Okay.
This next one is a really long one again, asking if a Scadrian who was an Allomancer, went to Nalthus, and would their kids have Scadrian Investiture? And the answer is yes. The person tried to glean out how many generations that would last, and Brandon just didn't want to talk about that, but their kids would still have Scadrian Investiture in them.
Which makes sense. That's how genetics
It totally
works.
does. Yeah, and Brandon said that it was about genetics in particular.
Interesting.
I could do this one if we want. I haven't read one in a while. Okay, cool. Questioner. So we know that things can be soulcast into aluminum, but can aluminum itself be soulcast into something else? Brandon, it resists all forms of investiture trying to change it to things, which sounds like a no.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But the way he said that is...
Yeah. Because we know aluminum is Rolkalest, the unforgeable metal referred to in the Emperor's Soul. And he's also said that aluminum cannot be awakened.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that if those other two things don't work on it, this won't work on it.
Although it's funny that it can be soulcast. Like, it still makes sense, but it's interesting that they can make it, but they can't unmake it.
Well, that's probably just the distinction between aluminum resisting investiture, but once you've made something soulcast, it is not invested, right?
Yeah.
Well,
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I don't quite think that applies here. It's that, like, you aren't, when you're creating something, when you're turning something into aluminum, you're not soulcasting a thing that is aluminum.
You're just making new aluminum.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're just manipulating the atoms so it becomes aluminum.
Works.
Yeah. And then once it's aluminum, like, you can't do anything else to it.
Yep. Ben, go do this next one.
Cool. Are there any parallels between the fish in the Pure Lake and the aviar in Sixth of Dusk? And Brandon says yes. And that question was from Kogiopsis.
Kogiopsis.
Yep.
Yes.
She's great.
Which is interesting. So does that mean if you put a fish on your shoulder from the Pure Lake, you'll get magic powers?
Almost definitely.
Well, if you eat the fish, you get.
Yeah.
Supposedly you get things.
I feel like the aviar get a much better deal that no one's trying to eat them.
Yeah.
Those poor fish. No.
Well, technically, the aviar eat the worms.
Yeah. Well, the worms are parasites, aren't they? So they're like, the parasites are doing just fine in there.
Yeah.
I assume.
So I think the parallel would be that the aviar are absorbing investiture from, like, elsewhere. And so I guess the fish are eating something in the Pure Lake. And the Pure Lake, we know, is special in some way. And very, very weird.
Yes. Well,
so it kind of makes sense, the things that live in it.
The fish are forming symbiotic bonds with Spren. That's what gives them their power.
Okay.
So I think this is just animals in the these are both animals in the Cosmere that have adapted to the investor that's around, and stuff happens.
Yeah.
This one's weird.
Yeah. Was it relevant that Ruin mentioned passion to Vin? Yes.
I feel like this is one of those ones where Brandon, like, where it was just like a little too open-ended, and I don't think there's much there, is what I'm thinking. That it's just that they just didn't.
Is the context of this? That's the actual quote. That's what I want to know.
I'm not
sure. Do you want to pull it up, or are you pulling it up?
Oh, I'm bringing this up.
Okay, cool. Whilst you're doing that, I just want to, because it's one of those things I hate, because now anytime anyone ever mentions passion in the Cosmere for the rest of the next 40 years, however long, people are going to be like, it's Odium. And it's like, oh, God. Yeah, and I'm like, it's going to be, it's like numbers and colors all over again.
Yeah.
It's just...
Oh, okay. Let's... All right. Ruin opened his eyes, staring her down. This work I do, it's about passion, Vin. It's about dynamic events. It's about change. That is why you and your Elend are so important to me. People with passion are people who will destroy. For a man's passion is not true until he proves how much he's willing to sacrifice for it. Will he kill? Will he go to war? Will he break and discard that which he has, all in the name of what he needs?
Ha!
Oh, I'd love Ruin. He's great.
I know Ruin is great, but so thinking about this, I'm thinking about this in the context of that there's some overlap between these ideas of shards, which I think is a later word of Brandon on this in our document, actually. And so it's not other things other than endowment can give things, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like there's some overlap between these 16 shards, I'd kind of imagine that ambition is a bit with this passion idea in a little bit.
Yeah.
As well, right? But I don't think there's anything deeper than that.
Yeah, I don't think this has anything... Well, I don't think this has anything significantly to do with Odium. I think this is...
Yes, I agree.
The shards are aspects of divinity, correct?
Right.
Yeah. I think this is just like passion is a part of people, like, and that's reflected in the divine. So it's...
Yeah. Oh man, guys, this next one kind of blew my mind.
The Gemstones one?
Yeah.
Okay. Where do gemstones come from? Brandon, gemstones and Roshar are mostly coming from gem hearts, and I remembered to stick in some mentions of this in Oathbringer, because a lot of people have been asking about this. It's not something like the daily ranching of animals for their gem hearts is not something that we bring up a lot, but there is some limited mining operations on Roshar as well. You've just got to get through the creme. So he's referencing probably the gum frames that we see a little bit.
Yes.
In Oathbringer.
This is interesting because
you do expect actually.
Yeah. Because for a while before.
Yeah.
For a while before Oathbringer, I was.
No, it seems completely reasonable, but I just hadn't thought about it this way ever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was a thing I wondered, but I'm also wondering, like, why do we get all the glass to put the gemstones in spheres? But, you know, who does that? That's what I wonder. But where the gemstones come from, I mean, we always got the big emeralds from the chasm feeds, so it totally makes sense, but I just never thought of it that way, which might be a reason why singers are pissed off at humans, maybe? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're not cool with that.
It might be why also we see there's some soul casting which you basically just never see. I'm trying to remember there's one that we've just not seen any even hints at anyone ever doing. And it might just because the animals required to make the gems for those soul casters might just not exist.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of garnet like blood soul casting much at all. Like I've only seen Yasna do that, if I can recall correctly. Yeah. And Shallan.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it might be blood is the one.
I don't know who would want a blood favorial. Like that'd be a little. I mean, like I guess if you're doing transfusions, that'd be cool.
Non-oil liquid. So but water.
Well, I know that, but I mean
through garnets.
But like they're not using it, and I don't think it seems like for the most part the soulcasters that people have access to are a little simpler and might not even be able to make water unless especially like the lower level ones where like they can just make brick, like those square buildings. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't have the ability to make water.
Yeah,
maybe.
Soulcasting and soulcasters that's a podcast.
Yeah.
Ian, read this next one.
Okay. So, Hoid was not afraid of a Shardblade? Would he be afraid of Nightblood? Brandon, every rational person, people start laughing, who has ever existed in the Cosmere is afraid of Nightblood. Or should be. Hoid isn't always rational, but yes, he is afraid of him.
Which is very interesting because Hoid has... When Hoid just says to Yasna, oh yeah, I'm Shardblade, that's cute.
Yeah.
Basically. Has a lot of healing abilities.
Yes.
So Nightblood's very special, I guess.
Every rational person who has ever existed in the Cosmere is afraid of Nightblood. That should tell you something.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. We are gonna do another deep dive into Nightblood very soon.
Oh yeah,
That's top tier important.
I'm not even in the Cosmere, and I'm afraid of Nightblood.
Yeah,
literally vaporizes things. Yeah. Like that. That's not good. By the way, Brandon Raffod, if fused, killed by Nightblood, would come back.
I don't think they would. But yeah,
he just Raffod. Yeah, I'd say no too.
Yeah,
but
that would be my inclination.
But he Raffod it. I thought it was such a good question.
It is a good question.
Did he say good question? That's the qualifier.
No, he just said Raffo. Okay. He just said Raffo. Brandon So Brandon, I walk up, put the recorder there, and he looks at me funny and just like does a double take. He's like, "Did you come down here from Montana?" I was just like, "Yeah." Yeah, finals are done, and he was just shocked that I was there. So he recognized me and probably gives me Raffos more often.
There's a chance I might be able to go to the Seattle one that's happening in May, and I really hope he recognizes me.
There's a Seattle signing in May?
There's a event. Emerald City Comic Con.
Some con going on.
Oh. Yeah. So this next one says... Questioner, so in Secret History, Fuzz mentions a weapon that he buried. Is that the Odium, or is that something else? Brandon, and then Brandon gives a Raffo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he has his son hold up a Raffo sign, which I think is hilarious.
Yes.
So I looked that up, if you guys wanted the context to the weapon line.
I do.
Okay, yeah, because that makes it, I think the answer is pretty obvious, especially if you've read the annotations. So this is Preservation talking to Kelsier. I needed a sign, Fuzz whispered, stopping near Kelsier. Something he couldn't change. A sign of the weapon I'd buried. The boiling point of water. The boiling point of water, I think. Maybe it's freezing point.
So he's just talking about the Odium mistings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's basically what it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
also there's Secret History annotations.
There weren't Secret History annotations, but the whole mention of the boiling point of water and the freezing point of water was an abandoned plot line from the original Mistborn.
Okay.
Where he was trying to do it more
16
about 16. Like he wanted there to be more natural things in the world that pointed at the sign of 16 to make people realize that something was happening. But he ended up just cutting it because it was too complex. So it's just like a little nod at that, I think.
Fair enough.
That makes sense. This one was asked by Comatose, aka Matt, who has been on the podcast before. Was Nightblood black before being awakened by Shashara? Brandon. No.
Yeah, I definitely didn't help workshop this question. Definitely not. Oh, wait, I did. I think that's crazy. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt loves Shashara. Loves Shashara so much. Yeah, Matt also asked if Shashara was known to wear red scarves to try and see if he was the girl who looked up. And the answer was no, but it was...
Was it no good question or
no? Just I think just a no. What can we get out of this Nightblood? I think that's really interesting because that indicates that the awakening made him black. Then right?
Yeah.
Brandon has
which is interesting.
In the annotations, Brandon says that the black smoke that Nightblood leaks is the corrupted breath.
I knew you were going to say corrupted. I knew you were going to bring up the corrupted
I don't think this is necessarily like corrupted as in Syanat corrupted.
Yeah.
I think this is corrupted as in like something
damaged.
Wonky went on with these. So I don't think there's outside investiture doing stuff here necessarily.
Yeah. It's interesting that it turned black because I have switched from thinking that Nightblood was created using multiple magic systems to thinking it was created using just Awakening. So it's really curious that Awakening, this color-based magic turned him black. And so it's just curious.
Wouldn't you still think that there is some other influence on Nightblood?
Oh, there was definitely something else influencing Nightblood's creation. I just don't think it was a second magic system that wasn't purposely.
It could have been Endowment herself.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been Endowment. I'm going to mess with these guys. I'm going to really mess with them.
And I'm wondering if this has to do with a little... Nightblood has an ability that isn't really discussed that much. It's like when an Awakener has a whole bunch of breath, they get the aura where colors become brighter around them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Colors around Nightblood become deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which isn't really discussed that much ever.
Yeah.
I don't think it came up in Oathbringer at all.
It happened. It happened. And I was watching pretty closely for making sure Nightblood was doing the right things. So
that might tie into this. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we got to do a Nightblood podcast because there was another sword in Oathbringer, presumably made similarly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is not black. So
or nearly as scary.
Correct.
No. My thought with that blade is that it was Nightblood without whatever extra influence that made Nightblood weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty much. I'm with you
seems
on that,
like the simplest explanation. Okay, guys. Well, we successfully managed to get through a third of our document of Words of Brandon here, and exactly one signing, and it has been a long time that we have been recording. So what we're going to do is we're going to call it for now. Definitely next week we're going to do more. If we do 3, we're gonna like space it out because we don't want you guys to get bored. But hopefully you found these informative, and we got the biggest highlights in this one. But there's a lot of cool stuff later though too, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great. So we'll end this one here, and we'll see you all next week for a lot more of these. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube. Let's not have Jebus break audio by yelling and subscribing. No, we're not going to do that. But just reminding you that if you want, you can subscribe and like to the video. Follow us on SoundCloud. For all updates, of course, you can follow us on 17 Shard on Twitter and find us on 17shard.com. And also, you can subscribe to the podcast with whatever podcast app you like with the RSS feed that is in the description below. Any last words?
I don't think
Did
so.
you mention the Discord?
Oh, and there's a 17 Shard Discord where you can talk with all of us anytime. Tell us how great or crappy this podcast was for you, or say that our conclusions were good or bad or whatever you want. But we hang out there way too much, and it's a big time sink. But and you can talk with all sorts of other Brandon Sanderson nerds, which is fun if you're in the middle of nowhere like I am, and you don't have Brandon Sanderson fans to talk to. And so with that, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Caw.